So yeah, again, welcome everyone to this webinar on digitalization of risk mitigation and contract compliance hosted by Deloitte. And we are very happy to present today's webinar in association with Knowliah. I am Madhuri and I'm working within the risk advisory department of Deloitte, Belgium. Now, during this presentation, I will mute all the attendees. But should you have questions during the presentation, you can put them in the chat box below. And after this presentation, you can raise your hand to ask questions directly to the speakers of today. So this is our agenda of today. So right after, I will introduce our speakers. And they will share with you recent trends that they have spotted in the market related to legal tech. Because based on these movements in the market, Deloitte and Knowliah joined efforts to provide a holistic answer to the needs in the market to digitalize risk mitigation and contract compliance. And we will explain you our solution and the benefits of it. In our next topic, we will pay attention to what is key before starting, namely the fact that the whole journey depends on the definition of the business requirements. And then we will look at Knowliah's platform and its different solutions. And to end, we will share a glimpse on how the implementation journey will look like before sending you home with some key takeaways. So here are our speakers of today. We have Ingrid Baele, Director with Deloitte, Hans van Heghe, CEO of Knowliah, and Yves Lefere, CCO of Knowliah. And I'll first give the floor to my colleague, Ingrid.
Thank you, Madhuri, for the introduction. First of all, who are we? Deloitte was established more than 175 years ago. It's a leading audit and consulting practice worldwide, serving 4 out of the 5 global Fortune Global 500 companies. Sorry. In Belgium, we offer a broad range of services in the area of audit, accounting, consulting, tax, legal, financial advisory, and risk advisory. We have a range of cooperations and partnerships with third parties to be able to offer end-to-end solutions with a combination of competencies. And today we are presenting such a solution for the digitalization of legal functions to improve the speed, risk mitigation, and contract compliance, for which we partner with Knowliah. And to give some more background on our new partner, I would like to give the floor to Hans.
Thank you, Ingrid. So Knowliah is a Belgian private-owned company. I started the company in 1999, so we are not as old as Deloitte. But we are coming from the world of information and knowledge management, applying AI, NLP since 2004. So, and the last 10 years, we further specialized in the world of enterprise legal management, contract lifecycle management, and related solutions. Now we are mainly operating in West Europe, but also expanding to the Nordics, Canada, and other regions in the world. And as such, we won in 2018 the Trends Legal Tech Award and are mentioned in reports of Forrester and Gartner as reference organizations in the IT. Now, if we look to trends in the market, there are a number of things that are changing today in the legal world. First of all, compared to 8-9 years ago, legal is much more dominant in the board of directors, in management teams, and so on. And that all due to the fact that our world, the economic world, is getting complexer and complexer. There are more regulations, there are more laws, there are more internal standards. Security and cybersecurity are becoming dominant topics in organizations. So it all gets more complex, and even managers, directors of other departments are more and more conscious about the fact that legal is becoming a dominant factor in the organization. Now, to deal with that importance, legal operations should shift from a reactive mode, where are we mostly in, to a proactive service towards the business, meaning pre-generation of contracts, easier and quicker answers to the business, things like that. Now, in most cases, you don't have more means to serve better your business colleagues. So reducing risks, but also gaining efficiency is a very important element in your legal team. So those are really the core elements that we see in the market. Next to that, there are a couple of elements that you should take into account as well. First of all, AI is, although we implement it since 15 years, 17 years almost, AI is everywhere, but AI is not everywhere in useful solutions. AI is mainly oriented towards data world. And in the legal, we are dealing with texts. And in texts, handling texts, comparing meaning, it's less evident to use AI. So be aware that AI is not always an answer. Next to managing matters, legal matters, contract files, a basic requirement for all business users and for legal is, of course, searching, but also finding. You can search, but does not guarantee the finding of the relevant information. And another thing that we skipped since a couple of years is user-based license fees. Due to the complexity of more business users, viewers, contributors, full users, managers, we just skipped all those license fees because they simply don't work anymore in an organization. So our systems, our solutions are always for unlimited number of users to ease the implementation in your organization. And the last topic is security. We are giving tomorrow again a webinar on security. Also, security is becoming more complex. GDPR is one reason, data localization is another one. Together with growing demands on cybersecurity, security becomes almost a mandatory hobby for the legal people. So be aware of that as well.
Next to the market insights in the work and the tools for the legal functions, we also have some observations which may in fact become pitfalls when approaching digitalization. Buying software is mainly seen as an investment of money, which may be true, but the investment of time for making the right selection and taking time before deciding what to do is often neglected. But that is quite a crucial phase. Usually, the software offers a lot of possibilities for configuration, and legal professionals often have their own way of working. And when a lot of people give their input for the requirements, it gives a good idea of which functionality could be useful, but you may end up with a complex or with an untransparent configuration when trying to implement everything. And that does not help when you want to reach goals such as transparency, one source of truth, and a good system where you can find everything easily back. So to avoid ending up with a mix of must-haves and nice-to-haves, triage of requirements and expectation management are quite relevant, not to disappoint users, but to end up with a configuration that fits at least 80% of the community and maybe more. Without taking the needed effort and these attention points into consideration, you may not have the functions, features, and transparency as envisaged. And then the money that you spend for the system may also be not worthwhile spending it. Now, how does our joint solution look like? Companies nowadays often appreciate a one-stop shop for getting an end-to-end solution. From the idea to start with digitalization, selecting a system, implementing it, and getting it fully operational. And that is what we offer together and what is visualized here. The green is the Deloitte, mainly the Deloitte work. The blue one is the Knowliah part, and the shaded one is where we act together. I will go step by step through this overview. It all starts with getting an idea what you currently have. So the current state assessment and what you would like to have in the future state assessment. And probably there is a gap in between, and that can be both in processes or in the way of working. It also depends, of course, whether you already have a system in place or whether you start from scratch. But the gap assessment will show what is needed or what needs to be defined. That could lead to a process definition or maybe process changes if there are already processes in place. And then the requirements definition can start, but I'll come back to that in more detail later on. And then additionally, but that depends, that will also become clear later in the presentation, depends on how advanced the level of the system is that you choose. You can go for a clause definition, a clause library to combine into templates. And that makes it more easy to start from standardized contracts or the standardized setup of contracts that you have in mind before you start. After all that is done, then Knowliah software comes into play. The software is activated. There is maybe additional configuration. It's quite standardized, but it also additional configuration is possible. So then the system is implemented, and also the necessary integration is done with other systems, which we will come back later on. So you can integrate with functions or with other systems. Once the system is ready for implementation, you have already data available. For example, in the old system or in another way, the way you worked, you can have data available. And it is important that those data enter the new system in the right format, and that you have a good view on the data in the system. So it may be needed that the data are cleansed up front, and then the migration can start. This is a joint effort in view of supporting of the data cleansing. Once that is done, then the system in fact can start, but not without having people trained. And there's also a possibility for after go live support, so that the people get the maximum benefit of the tool, of the software, and that it can be used to its maximum. During the whole project, we will share best practices, and depending on the size of the project management may be needed, and depending on from where you come and where you go, also change management may be nice to have. So this is the overview of our joint solution, and the benefits will be presented by Madhuri.
Indeed, thank you, Ingrid. So yeah, in the meanwhile, you have a good look on what our joint solution looks like, but now what are the benefits? Well, this is an end-to-end solution for enterprise legal management. So not only the legal suite, but also other parties in and out the company can benefit from this solution. Why? Well, working together via this solution will be more efficient and less time consuming, leading to faster turnaround times. Also, you will be able to manage your contracts and follow up on legal matters regardless of the stage they are in. And on top of that, it's also possible to structure all knowledge and information inside your company. As you have heard Ingrid explaining, indeed, an upfront assessment of the needs and requirements is of utmost importance. And in the next slide, we will elaborate more on that, on the key elements to consider upfront. Now, what drives this solution? Well, that is the software behind it. And in terms of software, yes, there is already a high level of standardization, of course, based on experience to years. However, important, the ability to customize remains. As Hans explained earlier, yes, there is this unique approach towards numbers of users, which is indeed not a common offering in the market. An unlimited amount of users can use Knowliah software, as fees are indeed based on stored and processed volumes. And in connection with that, Knowliah has 3 plans: Essentials, Professional, and Advanced, to support the needs of your company, but Hans and Yves will definitely touch upon these topics later in the presentation. Software can be deployed via different solutions, SaaS, on-prem, or hybrid, what suits your company best. And also important, we ensure compliance with data localization laws. Interesting to know is that both services and software can be offered in the language of your company's choice. So these are the main benefits of our joint solution. And well, now let's have a look at the requirement definition. And for that, I hand it over to Ingrid again.
Thank you. So to start with, of course, the ambition, what do you want and where do you want to go? Is it for a new system, or do you already have a system in place? Which goals do you want to achieve and which gaps do you want to bridge? But not to forget, what do you don't want to lose that you already have now? Because that's sometimes going into a new system, and then once in a new system, people realize, oh, what we had before was better, or that we miss. So that's also important to take into account what you already have and what you like at this moment. Then when starting to design the system, an important thing to think about is mandatory versus non-mandatory fields. On the one hand, you want to have a consistent system where certain fields are filled in the way that you would like to have, so you can make them mandatory. But if you have no balance between mandatory and non-mandatory fields, it can frustrate the people. So that's an important balance to look at. What do you really need according to a format, and what can people choose more or less themselves? What is the level of details that you would like to have? And here it's all about what you want to get out, for example, at the end in reporting. Because what you don't have in will never get out. But if you put too much in, it's a burden for the people, and you let them put in a lot of details which are not necessarily needed. So also there, that's an important aspect to look at. Then do you want to have workflows? People can follow the certain workflow from beginning to the end, and then everybody works in the same way. But it also depends on what freedom is needed. But a minimum requirement on workflows is always nice to have. And then for the access, if it depends on how broadly the system is used within the company, that, for example, different functions need a different type of access. Some functions only need to view, others need to do all work in it, others only need to have partial access, and that's also important to know. And for example, to couple that with the HR system based on roles. Then the integration with other functions and systems. With the remote working and hybrid working over the past 20 months, that has grown a lot. And a lot of clients ask for integration with other functions and systems to have a better and more efficient communication between different systems and with other functions. And therefore, an integrated IT landscape is quite relevant. So, for example, you can connect with the ERP system for the financials, with the HR system for arranging authorized access, with a single sign-on, but also with tools for e-signatures. And then I go to the right to the access outside legal, because that those two blocks have some relation with each other, because there's also a lot of requests for portals to give stakeholders outside the legal organization, to give stakeholders the potential to get access to the system. And this can be very useful, because you can have stakeholders within the company who only need partial access to certain contracts, for example, but also with external law firms. And also, in case you would like to render managed services or get managed services from somebody else, you can use this system for managing dockets of others, all with the possibility to have access only to the information that is needed. And referring to Hans' speech, also with sufficient security, that there is no risk that you have access to other files, but that you have your own part in the system. And then another aspect is the local versus global implementation. That's mainly important for companies that have offices in different countries. It may be that because of local requirements, you have different requirements or different functionality in another country. But there, I think it's quite important to find a common denominator for a global configuration, and then allow for exceptions or for additional configuration in the different offices where local law or local regulations require so. Also mentioned by Hans before is data localization laws. That is also something important to take into account if you move data amongst countries, what is allowed and what is not allowed. And also, therefore, Knowliah has several solutions. And then last but not least, as I said before, depending on the type of advancement of the module of the system, you can choose to have that in the system. And there you have to determine, of course, which templates do you want, which clauses do you want. Do you want to have clauses with fallback positions that people can already choose that are approved up front? And which languages do you want to have? You can have clauses in different languages depending on the region where you would like to use them. This is only a part of the aspects that are relevant. Depending on the type of company, depending on the size of company, there may be more aspects to be considered during the requirements definition. But this is to give you a flavor what you certainly have to think about before. And if everything goes well during the requirement definition, then there is a good chance that the system is fit for purpose.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Yves, and I have the pleasure now to share with you some more insights on the Knowliah platform. Ingrid, Madhuri, and Hans have already said a lot about some benefits, some advantages of the system, as well as some aspects around functionalities, integrations, and security. So the purpose is that we dive a little deeper in those different aspects right now. As mentioned before, Knowliah is a modular platform allowing you to support your organization as well as your stakeholders in different processes that you are covering into your legal operations. We're gonna touch base on each and one of them. And if you have questions, please do not hesitate to raise them in the Zoom session. We'll be able to manage, we have time to manage them afterwards for sure. I'm not going to give a demonstration of the tool. It's not the place to do so, but obviously we can, should you wish to have more insights on the workings of the platform itself. A first solution that we cover with our modular platform is what we call legal operations management, which is a completely standardized platform allowing you to cover different operations into your legal organization, as well as in the collaboration with your colleagues inside your organization. So it's not only used by the legal department, it is used by the entire organization, at least everyone who is involved in those legal operations, ranging from managing your matters, managing your contracts, managing your entities, managing your different knowledge aspects within your legal operations. So it's a standardized platform allowing you to support this, allowing you to support at least 80% of all matters that you would be handling, whether it's a contract, a claim, a litigation, a project, an advice, or any other type of matter. The platform can assure you that you can manage at least 80% of it, always in support of your ambitions and your challenges within governance, risk, and compliance. Another very important module within the platform, which can be part of your entire suite of solutions within the Knowliah application, or it can just be a standalone application where you can start with, because it's also important to understand that you can grow as you need. As Ingrid mentioned before, it's extremely important to assess what your needs and requirements are within the specific context of your organization, and it is of course different for every organization, and then to choose a platform that actually allows you to gradually grow with the needs that you have today and the needs that you will have in the future. Contract lifecycle management is a very big portion of that. It's a process that has a lot of importance when it comes to compliance, when it comes to risk coverage, when it comes to governance of your legal and important information within your operations. Contract lifecycle management means that the platform of Knowliah will allow you to be supported from the contract creation part, the template management, clause library that allows you to automate template management and contract and document automation, towards the digital signature of it, the archiving of it, the whole processes around the workflows of revision, approval, etc. Also, of course, being alerted automatically on renewal dates, expiry dates are extremely important to be able to actually create productivity within your department. So contract lifecycle management is a very important module. Another one, next to your contract matters that you're managing, you're probably managing other types of matters as well. It can be advice matters, it can be project matters, governance matters, corporate governance matters, M&A matters, etc. These make a big portion of your day-to-day operations. But what most organizations lack of is having a centralized system that gives it makes it easy to actually centralize that information and automate a lot of the classification processes. As Hans mentioned before, Knowliah has been investing a lot of time and resources in what we call auto-classification, meaning that we support users constantly in the attribution, the maximization of attribution of metadata in a completely automated way, so that you as a user are not constantly confronted with the classification. But you need classification and centralization to have your information at hand to be able to correspond and to respond to the needs that you have in governance, risk, and compliance. So the centralization of your general matters are becoming more and more important to be able to cover those needs. A fourth solution that we offer within our platform is legal entity management. And of course, everything is interlinked. Legal entity management means the management of your different companies that you are having in your holding, in your group organization, and all the corporate housekeeping that goes along with it. Going from document management, meeting management, shareholder management, to the organigrams of your organization that you need for audits, for banks, etc. Entirely embedded within the platform, but can also be a standalone solution if that would be your primary requirement today. A fifth important solution is claims and litigation management, meaning that another type of matter next to contracts, generic matters, you can also manage litigation matters. So it means a central point where you have all related information on your litigation centralized. 360-degree view on your litigation, also the whole life cycle of your litigation. What is the status? What is all the relevant correspondence? And how is my lawyer that is supporting me in this litigation, how is he coping with this litigation file? Because obviously you can also collaborate together with the law firms that you're working with on certain litigation. They can also have access to the platform, meaning that they can collaborate together with you on the same litigation. They can also make their pro forma invoices. Once it's approved by you, they will issue their final invoices. So all these operations can be automated for a large part and centralized within the application. So that means that e-billing, it's something that is very common in the States. It's not yet that common in Europe. Knowliah supports these kinds of processes of e-billing to facilitate collaboration with law firms, but also support your KPI management, meaning that you can manage your spend, your outside legal spend, so that you can improve it, that you can have the necessary reporting towards your management, etc. The sixth solution is IP management. We're not going to cover the entire IP related registrations, etc. But we're going to make you able to register the key data on your IP cases or your IP files. Key data centralized again as a matter in the platform, allowing you to report on it, allowing you to have a 360-degree view on it, maybe probably interlinked with other applications to do the whole management also with outside registration firms. And then the bar that you see under those solutions, the Legal Client Portal and Knowledge Hub, it's a standalone solution, but in most cases, it's entirely embedded within all other solutions, meaning that within the platform, important to realize is that it always stays, whatever I mention here of solutions, it's always one platform, one centralized platform, enabling you to activate or deactivate those modules. And the Legal Client Portal offers you the possibility to enhance collaboration. It means that people in your organization can very easily communicate with you as a legal department, whether it's for an NDA request. They fill in a couple of questions, a couple of criteria, and automatically they receive the document. Maybe it needs approval, and then that approval will be automated as well. But important is that there is no or very little interaction with you, because these are standard processes that are entirely automated. In the meanwhile, there can be automatically a pre-contractual matter that is created within the system so that legal can follow up on it, can have the necessary information already centralized without having to intervene. The Knowledge Hub for the legal people, for the legal organization, for the legal counsel, but also for other people within the organization. As Hans mentioned before, if you can make your organization legally knowledgeable, you will prevent it from having issues, you will prevent risks, etc. Enabling them to actually retrieve information they need in their processes, making sure that you can make it available without having to interact all the time, is offering them the ability to cover risk issues. but also for you internally within the organization when it comes to clause management, that you can actually retrieve information, search, and actually find. We make a clear distinction between searching and actually finding information. So this is a small insight on the different solutions that we offer within one platform, one smart platform where we use different techniques, different algorithms ranging from artificial intelligence to natural language processing to cognitive computing to inheritance, etc. So we use a broad range of techniques, of algorithms that actually work. As Hans mentioned, since 2004, we're already occupied with artificial intelligence and bringing this into the platform, but only activating it there where it works, where it actually brings added value. If you spend your time validating what the system does for you, there is no added value in your efficiency and your productivity gains. So a smart platform, a simple platform in usability for yourself as a legal department, but certainly also for your collaborators, for your colleagues, for your business colleagues. And as Ingrid and Hans also mentioned, a secure platform. Security is key. Today, we cannot allow ourselves anymore to put security aside, and that goes from the accessibility of the platform as for the data localization laws. So it has different aspects. And as you know, Knowliah is available in cloud, in a European cloud, in an entirely certified environment, ISO certified environment, GDPR compliant, etc., but also can be installed on premise and also with hybrid installations possible. And then very important is that platform. You made a pre-selection, you thought of the requirements that you have, the needs that you have, how it should look like, what insights you should have, what kind of operations you will cover with it. But obviously you have your existing architecture, you have systems in place. If you're a Microsoft stack organization, you work with Outlook, you work with Office 365, with SharePoint, with Teams, with OneDrive, etc. If you're in a Google stack, you have OneDrive, you have Google Drive, you have Google Mail, etc. These are applications that you are using and that you will for sure continue to be using. Email is one of them. You open your email in the morning, you close it in the evening, and throughout the day, you're constantly working in email. So connection somehow is extremely important to cover your needs in the increase of productivity, but also your risk management, making sure that all relevant information is actually captured and centralized and accessible to those who need access to it when needed. But if you have to do a lot of manipulations with email, it won't happen. So it needs to be automated. And therefore, we have a very intuitive connection with Outlook, with Gmail, allowing automatic archiving of emails as well as their attachments with intelligent analysis of the content, meaning that we can classify, we can search on it, etc. Deduplicate, security is managed and covered. Another example is Teams. Teams is a tool that is used more and more, obviously for purposes as we are doing now, for calls, for meetings, but also to start projects, to start an internal project, to start an internal pre-contractual discussion with a lot of people involved, with a lot of information, with a lot of documents. But a lot of team sites are getting created. And already IT is stressing because there's too many information, too many scattered team sites that are created. So at one point, they will decide to stop and they have to be deleted. But for legal, this is extremely important that that information is captured, is centralized somewhere. So we have, and shortly we will release this, the ability to automatically capture the information that is created and managed in those team sites, and also give it back so that once the team site is closed, information is securely centralized and accessible within a matter in Knowliah, allowing you to actually continue having access to that kind of information. Other very important integrations are your ERP systems, like SAP, for example, where there is a lot of data available, data of your suppliers, data of your counterparties, of your customers, etc. You will not want to remanage that data in a platform as Knowliah. You will want to be able to inherit that data or use that data. So therefore, we have smart connectors that allow you to actually reuse the data that is already there and have an update, of course, if there is any. integrations with signing hubs like DocuSign, Adobe Sign, and for the Belgian ones, you have Connective, you have Quill, are obviously also extremely important when you want to have efficiency gains and productivity gains, allowing you to push information on those platforms, documents that need to be signed. Once they're signed, they're getting automatically archived back into the system in the contract matter or in any other matter that is involved in your digital signature processes. So this is for a solution. Ingrid mentioned before as well, you may have or probably have existing information. You have systems in place, you have legacy data. What to do with your legacy data? Well, there are many options. One of them is migration, meaning that you take what you have and you put it in the Knowliah platform. We do have very specific scripts and mechanisms to support organizations and guide organizations in legacy migration, which is a very important part, of course. But we also offer solutions where there is almost no effort needed, meaning that you can leave information where it is and you can connect with it from the Knowliah platform. So we have search connectors on SharePoint, on OneDrive, on Google Drive, etc., meaning that you can leave the information where it is, but we will make sure that it's intelligently searchable. And what does it mean, intelligently searchable? That means that we will index all that information. We will inherit your security rights, making sure that people only see what they're allowed to see. We will OCR where needed. OCR is optical character recognition, meaning that if you have scanned PDF documents, wherever they're stored, they will be searchable by Knowliah. We won't convert them, but they will be searchable. And we will auto-classify, meaning that we will capture metadata out of the content of all those documents. There's no validation needed because it's outside the Knowliah environment, but you will be able to search and actually find. So that's it for the introduction of the platform. I would love to give you more insights and demonstrate, but that's not the place here to do so. So I will leave the word back to my colleagues.
Thank you, Yves. There is one item you forgot on the integration, is the integration in Word, where you as a legal user are able to save clauses from existing contracts or documents into the Knowliah base, and that you also have the same feature of searching and finding, making it easy to easily find clauses that you or a colleague previously saved into the system and enrich them again with conditions and fields from your matters, making them into smart templates so that they are easily usable within your legal client portal for your business colleagues. Then, if you look to the elements, Yves already mentioned that 80% of the legal cases are addressed. What do we mean by that? That's out of the standard configuration, out of the box of our system, in general, we cover more than 80% of the legal cases within a company. The other maximum 20% there, it might be required to add some extra data fields, some extra filters, some extra tasks, so that they, at the end, we cover 100% of your legal matters. Improved productivity with over 50% is thanks to the finding, easy recreation, easy storage with auto-classification, with notification on expiry dates and things like that, help you in gaining that on that productivity. And then when it comes to highest industry standards, we mainly refer to security and information management. Think about GDPR, think about cybersecurity standards that do exist in the market. Contribute to GRC and legal domains. So to obtain your same level of GRC compliance or your contribution to GRC domains, we should be able to reduce that with 50% effort. Now, we don't cover all the GRC topics because that's a wide area, but we do help to reduce efforts in that domain as well. And then very important, legal is not an island anymore within the organization. So your business colleagues demand more and more of you. And in the past, it was in a reactive mode. In the future, it should be a proactive world or way of working. So also over there with the legal client portal, with smart templates built around standardized clauses and so on, you do help your colleagues in having faster standardized contracts, NDAs, and answers to certain topics and subjects. If we look to our joint expertise, I want to stress the word international. Although we are speaking here about Deloitte Belgium, the team of Ingrid and Madhuri is active much wider than just Belgium. And we as well as Knowliah, we are active from the Middle East to Canada for the moment. So it's truly international experience on digital, on legal as two main domains. As Belgians, we are very pragmatic and multilingual at the same time. So our platform for the moment today is available in 10 languages, from English to Dutch, German, French, Spanish, Italian, Portuguese, and also Arabic. So it's one of the advantages of being Belgian that you are multilingual by nature. Then also important, we just help you on getting to the solutions, but we also are willing and help you in sharing our knowledge and expertise on the must-knows for legal operations. So have a look to our websites. You will find a lot of inspiring webinars that are not about the software, but about surrounding topics like KPIs for legal, workflow automation, security, and data localization. Ingrid referred to our solutions on data localization, but I want also to stress the availability of expertise within Deloitte on the subject of international data localization laws and trends that are popping up everywhere in the world. Madhuri.
Yes, thank you, Hans. So yeah, now we've heard all the stages, and we have also seen in glimpse of Knowliah's platform. But now, how to connect all the dots? How will this implementation journey look like? And you see here 5 stages with some clearly defined actions below. So everything starts with a good diagnosis. And the gap between the current state and where the company wants to go, so the future state, will be assessed in the first stage. And this can be done via stakeholder interviews or workshops. In the next phase, we will look at the design, and we will search for solutions to bridge the gap between the current and the future state. What we will look at some processes within the company, also have a look at your templates, even some specific clauses that are already in place, and we will also look for other opportunities to optimize. And then in the third stage, that's the stage where the system comes into play. And as we said before, the system should be fit for purpose. So based on the design, implementation and configuration will happen, as well as migration and integration. And then you have this fully designed system and your company is ready to go live. Now, ideally, throughout these different stages, but yeah, anyway, at some point, you would need to create awareness within your organization and even provide for training. Why? Well, business needs to know, for instance, the reason for change and, of course, what the changes are. Anyway, a comprehensive approach to these transformations is needed to ensure smooth transition and to have minimal business disruption. And then after the go live, we offer additional support. And also, depending on the type of the company, the possibility exists to assist your company through managed services. And then I'm going to the final slide because we are nearing the end of this webinar. We have some closing remarks and we have bundled them together in 3 key takeaways. So first, as explained already multiple times, focus on the requirements before making your choice on legal tech. Secondly, evaluate the current way of working and the system you already have in place, because we have seen now a unique software system offering different solutions to match your company's goals. And lastly, be aware of risk and compliance issues. We know that you're operating in a fast-paced environment and that this indeed requires faster throughput times. And here we bring this end-to-end solution to support you in covering potential risk and compliance issues. We hope that we, during this presentation, have increased your appetite for legal tech, and that you will evaluate this end-to-end solution as indeed added value to your company. And this is the end of our presentation from my end. I already would like to thank Hans, Yves and Ingrid, and also the audience for attending today's sessions. But we still have 5 minutes left to address some of the questions you might have. I'm looking, I'll stop sharing so I can look in the chat box. I have one question from Olivia, which has already been answered by Yves. Pausing here to see whether there are other questions from the audience. If there are no further questions, then I think we can close today's session. So thank you very much and have a nice rest of the day. Thank you all.